distinguished scholars, dynamic students, dear brothers and sisters, a very beautiful Islamic reading. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. The caption of my write-up is basically, as the chairman said, Nursi's Islamic model for modern Muslims. But the main theme of my write-up revolves around the subtitle, Nursi's Solutions to Modern Muslims' Problems. Dear friends, Badiuzzama Sayyid Nursi was not only endowed with scholastic temperament, he was also filled with inner spiritual and Sufistic spark that filled him with a stubborn flame of desire to save Muslims from the clutches of crisis. And to meet this end, to achieve this noble cause, he resorted to rejuvenate, revive, and reinaugurate the universal and egalitarian principles and values of the Quran and Islam among modern Muslims. With his innate passion, unshakable faith, insatiable passion, stubborn courage, vast experience, wisdom, and scientific temperament, and a deep insight into the Quranic realities and worldly affairs, he put every possible effort, he exerted all efforts to provide Muslim community with remedy to all its problems, deficiencies, crises, evils, and diseases prevailing in all Muslim societies and Islamic countries, whether Muslims live in majority or minority. Dear friends, have you ever stopped to really think about what are the modern Muslims' problems? Have you ever really thought about it? According to Sayyid Nursi's perspective, or Risale Nur's perspective, the modern Muslims' problems are the practical weakness and deficiencies creeping into the Muslim world, entire Islamic world. However, he differentiated between the deficiencies of the Islamic world on this point and Islam itself. Clarifying his standpoint on this matter, he says, and I quote, "I saw that Islam, which comprises true civilization, was materially backward in relation to present-day civilization, as though Islam was vexed at our bad conduct and was departing for the past." End of the quote. Now coming to the solutions. This is the most baffling problems according to Sayyid Nursi's perspective, which all Muslims, whether they are in majority or minority, Islamic countries or in non-Islamic countries, democratic countries, this is the most baffling prevailing problem which has actually jeopardized the whole society of Muslim Ummah around the world. So Badiuzzama Nursi's solutions to all these problems, Badiuzzama Sayyid Nursi was of the view that the solution to the modernity related problems, both material and spiritual, was not philosophy of religion, but the heart of religion. According to the Quranic commentary Risale Nur, philosophy and reason are not capable enough to embrace all humanity due to their dependency on the material needs. But religion, in accordance with universal principles, can meet all human needs and modern necessities. Thus, Nursi substantiates his point. He says, and I quote, "The need of the people for religion is greater than the material needs." In this way, Badiuzzama prescribed very effective cures to all these problems, evils that were prevailing from individuals to the entire Islamic world. He laid greater emphasis on the Muslims' individual self-confidence being reinforced through psychological renewal. At a time when the Islamic world was surrounded by deep crisis and defeat, in all his writings and speeches, the old Sayyid recommended hope in the face of despair. And to prevent individuals losing the psychological resistance, The old Said sometimes uses the fundamentals of belief, sometimes natural events, and sometimes predictions about the future. He says, and I quote, "The future shall be of Islam and of Islam alone, and its ruler shall be the truths of the Quran and belief. Therefore, we must submit to divine determining and our fate of the present, for ours is a brilliant future, while the Europeans is a dubious past." One of the basic principles enshrined in Badi'uzzama's thought system is that of freedom. According to Risale-e-Nur's perspective, this is the basic element that forges link between the individual and society, leading to the psychological renewal and feeling of confidence. In the period of New Sayyid, Badi'uzzama described my freedom. He says, I quote, "I can live without bread, but I cannot live without freedom." End of quote. He further elaborates, "The true believer is truly free. One who is the slave and servant of the maker of the world will never condescend to lower himself before his creatures." That is to say, freedom is increased to the degree belief is strengthened. So Badi'uzzama considered freedom to be absolutely essential for the Islamic society's independence, both of the internal political structures and in foreign relations. He says, and I quote, "The first door of Asia and the world of Islam is the constitutionalism which is in accordance with the Sharia, and the freedom which is within its bounds. Freedom is the sole means of liberating the Islamic world of 370 million from captivity." End of the quote. One can easily understand from the above that Badi'uzzama was a staunch supporter of freedom within Islamic bounds, not of absolute freedom that leads to anarchy. According to Badi'uzzama Sayyid Nursi, true freedom is that one harms neither oneself nor others. His idea of freedom being limited by the Sharia was also reflected in the practical political field. In the speech he made in Salonika on the third day after the proclamation of freedom, he said, and I quote, "Do not misinterpret freedom, lest it escapes us and makes us choke by making us drink our former stint in captivity from another vessel. For freedom is realized through conforming through good morality to the injunctions and conduct of the Sharia." Dear friends, Badi'uzzama draws a clear distinction between the virtues of Islam and misconduct of Muslims. Hence, on the one hand, he advocates Islam's supreme emphasis on equity, justice, liberty, and social and egalitarian provisions in the initial period of Islam, known as the era of bliss. On the other, he appears to be severe critic of Muslims' waywardness and deviation from the true version of Islam.
You have 2 minutes left.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I'll just sum up my argument within a minute.
That will better, yes.
Yeah. So, the problems, the root cause of all these problems, according to Badi'uzzama Sayyid Nursi, can be summed up in 4 causes. He says that the backwardness and moral decline of the present-day Muslims stem from the 4 causes. First, failure to observe the ordinances of the illustrious Quranic Sharia. Second, the arbitrary and erroneous interpretation of certain sycophants. Third, the out-of-place bigotry of ignorant externalist scholars or knowledgeable ignoramuses. And fourth, due to misfortune and bad choice, abandoning the virtues of Europe, which are difficult to acquire, and imitating, like parrots or children, the evils of civilization, which are agreeable to man's base desires. To sum up, Badi'uzzama Sayyid Nursi encouraged Muslims to adopt the dynamic spirit, intellectual tradition, and technology of the West and Europe, but condemned its European colonialism, the economic exploitation of capitalism, the atheism of Marxism, and the moral bankruptcy of secularism. He believed that Islam provided its own religio-political alternative for Muslim societies, and thus he turned to the past to rediscover, reinvigorate, rejuvenate the humanitarian principles and universal values essential to reconstruct an Islamic model for modern Muslim societies. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot for rendering me a patient hearing. Assalamu alaikum.